Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today we're going to be doing a try a chapter tag, and this is my second time starting this video. I started last night, just before I was doing some reading sprints with Amy and many of you. I had chosen 6 books to do for try a chapter, and I decided I'm just going to unhaul all of these. Because the reason that I chose 4 of them is they're really low rated. So it's 4 of my lowest rated good book of the month books. And then 2 others that I'm just really not sure what I'm going to think about them. And so I wanted to just kind of get a taste of the first chapter of the writing style. And I started with one of those 2 bonus ones, and I already was like, I don't like it. So I'm unhauling. We're going to start off with a little unhaul, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do instead. So I'm unhauling We Are the Brennans. I'm unhauling Bronze Drum. I'm unhauling Upgrade by Blake Crouch. I'm unhauling Atomic Love by Jenny Fields. I'm unhauling Queen of Thieves by B.Z. Marsh, and I'm unhauling Liberty by Caitlin Greenidge. I just wasn't excited to do this video. If I was looking at my book of the month shelf and really being honest with myself, I don't want to read any of these. So I'm like, why would I waste my time and yours reading the first chapter of books that I'm pretty sure I'm going to unhaul? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to move this chair out of the way, because this little shelf back here is where I keep all my book of the month, unread book of the month. And we're going to go through together, and we're going to pick 5 books, maybe 4, 5, or 6 books that I'm not sure what I'm going to think about them. I don't know how we're going to decide, but we're going to take a look at my shelf together, and I'm going to pick some different ones, because all of these are going to go out the door. They're going to go to my Pango, honestly, at the end of Ketchupathon. So I feel really good about unhauling those. I now have to just decide what I'm gonna read. So let's turn around and look at the shelf. Okay, starting way up at the top, I have 2 that I am very interested in reading. I'm not going to include these 2. So The Lost Story and Shelterwood. And then we have this stack here on the first shelf. So this one, Beyond the Point, I did with Try Chapter last year. I still haven't read it, but I am interested, so I'm not going to worry about that one. I might use this one, The Space Between Worlds, because it is sci-fi. I'm curious about it. I can't remember if I've heard good or bad about it, so this is a really good contender. I'm going to keep this one out. Let's see. The River We Remember, I know I'm going to love. Bloomsbury Girls, I'm really confident in. Again and Again is another kind of strange one. I don't remember what this one is about, but this might be another one that's good, because it's a little bit different. So I'm going to put that in the pile. Postmistress of Paris, I've had forever. Sister in Arms, What the River Knows is a newer one that I've heard really good things about. I'm pretty confident in that one. Happiness Falls, I've read Angie Kim before and really enjoyed her. And Kaikei is another one that I've heard really, really good things about. So I'm pretty confident in all of these. I may come back and pick one if I don't get enough, but for now, I'm going to move down to this shelf. So we have Let Us Descend. I have really enjoyed Jesmyn Ward's writing in the past. The Foxwife, I'm pretty confident about. This is a nonfiction cast. Women of Light, I think I'm adding to my unhaul pile. I think I've done the first chapter of this before and I didn't love it. I'm just putting that in my unhaul pile. Ruthless Vows is a sequel, so I'm not interested in that. Home Before Dark, I'm going to keep and read at some point. All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker, I'm pretty sure I'm going to love. The Two Lives of Lydia Bird might be a good one. It looks like a rom-com. Looks like sliding doors, like she has 2 options of things. I've read Josie Silver before, and I know that'll be an easy, fun read. So I'll keep that one for now. But here's another one that I don't remember even picking this. The Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan. What even is this? This is a good contender, because I don't even remember what this book is about. So that's good. We've got 3. And then moving down to my last shelf here, I definitely want to add this to the Try a Chapter, History of Wild Places, because I know a lot of people really love this. I've not read this author before, and I'm not sure it's going to be a book for me, but I want to try it. The Spectacular by Fiona Davis, I love. This is another historical fiction I'm pretty confident about. I haven't heard great things about this one, but it was one of my anticipated, so I'm not worried of that. This is a nonfiction book of essays. Maybe I'll include this in Try Chapter because I haven't read John Green in a really long time. I've heard good things about this book, but I'm not sure it's for me, which is what Try Chapter is all about. So maybe I'll include that one. And then I have Kingdom of Back, which the cover is stunning, and Wedding Dress Sewing Circle, which I'm very confident about. All right, so that was very successful. I have a stack of 5 that I'm very curious about. Either I don't know anything about the book itself, or I want to see what I think about the writing style. And I feel like that is more the purpose of this, of where I'm at right now for a Try Chapter tag. And I also found one more that I'm just going to straight up unhaul. And all of my book of the month fit on those top 2 shelves. I'm so excited. I feel like I'm making progress in diminishing that shelf. Now, if only I could get better about the rest of the shelves. So of these 5, I think the one I'm the most curious about at the moment is A History of Wild Places. Okay, the summary of this sounds wild. I mean, wild is in the title, so maybe that's fitting. But the summary is we follow Travis Wren. He has a strange talent of being able to find missing people. All he needs is one object of theirs. So I don't know if he's got some kind of supernatural gift or good instincts or what, but he is able to find people who have vanished. But then when he takes on the case of this woman, Maggie St. James, things are a little bit crazy. So Maggie was a writer of kind of macabre or darker children's books. In trying to find her, he's led to this place that many people thought was just a legend called Pastoral. And it's almost like this cultic kind of community that live in Pastoral. They've taken themselves away from the rest of the world. They don't want anybody infiltrating, bringing their germs, all of that. They're kind of living this utopian life, but things in Pastoral don't go as seemed. And when Travis stumbles upon Pastoral, he also disappears just like Maggie did. And then years later, there's a lifetime member of Pastoral who discovers about these 2 people who've gone missing and starts to uncover some things about this community that he's lived in for his whole life, and unravels the mystery, secrets, and all of this. And it just sounds crazy good. The paragraph at the end of the summary says, hauntingly beautiful, hypnotic, and bewitching. A history of Wild Places is a story about fairy tales, our fear of the dark, and losing yourself within the wilderness of your mind. What? I'm intrigued, to say the least. I'm very intrigued. So it looks like, in kind of glancing through, we're going to alternate between a couple different timelines. And the chapters are not numbered. So that's going to be a little tricky. Let's see. And the first chapter, of course, is super duper long. So it's separated into parts. Part 1 is labeled The Barn. Part 1 is like 40 pages, and I think it's all one perspective. So I guess I'm reading 40 pages of this book. If I feel like I get to a good stopping point, and I know how I feel about the start, I might not read all 40, but it's pretty long. And there's literally no chapters leading up to that. So all of part 1, here we go. I'll be back in a second. Before I get to reading though, I do want to read the first paragraph. I did just read this little excerpt from Foxes and Museums, which is excerpt from book 1 in the Eloise and the Foxtail series. And then we start part 1, which is called The Barn. And the first sentence is, death has a way of leaving breadcrumbs, little particles of the past that catch and settle and stain. Okay, that's a good first line. It's eerie, it's creepy, it's intriguing. I think that's a good first line. Okay, I'll be back to tell you what I think. Okay, I've read the first 20 pages of A History of Wild Places, and there was a little line break here. That was the second one. So I read past the first line break and read to the second one. And when we had the first line break a couple pages before, it was the present timeline. And then the second section was going back to when Travis, one of our main characters, when he first learned about the Maggie case. So in the first section, we get to know about this ability that he has and how exhausting it is that every time he touches an object, he gets glimpses, almost like an old black and white film. So quick pictures of the person's life whose object it is. So how exhausting that is for him, and how he went through most of college drunk, because when he was drunk, he was not able to get those images. His ability didn't work. So I don't know where this ability came from or anything like that yet. And in the first part, he's also following in Maggie's footsteps. She pulled over to the side of the road, the last gas station that she went to, and he's trying to figure out where she went. And then we kind of go back in time to when he first learned about the case. And now he had kind of like said he wasn't doing it anymore, and now he's intrigued a little bit and agrees to do it for his friend. I do feel like this is going to be very atmospheric. At the first part, when he's headed out on the road trying to find out where Maggie went and all that, the descriptions are very colorful, very, I don't know the right word, atmospheric. I feel like this is going to be a perfect book to read in the fall. I don't know that it's the right thing for me to read right at the moment, but I'm absolutely very interested. So let me know if you've read this one. Do you think I'm going to like it or not? I don't know. I feel like it is going to be a little different from what I normally read. A little more on the suspenseful, maybe thrillery side, deeply mysterious and intense potentially. So we'll see how I feel about it. But now I'm going to go ahead and do a sci-fi. Let's go ahead and try out The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. The summary of this is: an outsider who can travel between worlds discovers a secret that threatens her new home and her fragile place in it. This is a stunning sci-fi debut that's both cross-dimensional adventure and a powerful examination of identity, privilege, and belonging. So we're going to follow this girl named Kara, who lives in this world where there are multiple versions of the world, and you can go between the worlds as long as as long as you in the other world has already died. So there's no chance of you can't go to a version of the world, a dimension where you exist still. And you exist in all of the dimensions, I guess. I don't know. Kara's life has been cut short on 372 worlds in total. But on this Earth, Kara has survived. She's identified as an outlier, perfect candidate for multiverse travel. So I'm not really sure what this is going to be about. It could be a weird one. The first line says, when the multiverse was confirmed, the spiritual and scientific communities both counted it as evidence of their validity. Scientists said, look, we told you there were parallel universes. And the spiritual said, see, we've always known there was more than one life. So that is how this book starts. Looks like it's going to be an interesting one. I will let you know what I think of the first chapter, which is about 20 pages, 19 pages. So I'll let you know what I think of the first chapter in a few minutes, or like the second. Okay, I didn't quite make it to the end of chapter 1. I'm on page 15, 16, and this is not the book for me. I'm confused, and I just don't care enough about it. I don't even know exactly what's happening. I know that it's going to be political. There's a little level of class difference talked about between a couple of the characters, so that's going to probably come into play. And then there's like, yeah, economically like wealthy and then not wealthy. There's going to be a female romance, I think, that's kind of at the heart of it. Kara has a crush on Dell, who's a superior at her work, I think. And I'm just not interested in a sci-fi romance multiverse book. Yeah, I wasn't captivated by the writing style. I just felt confused and also bored and also not at all interested. So I'm going to go ahead and add The Space Between Worlds to my on-haul pile and take it off of my list of TBR. And I think that's all I'm going to do tonight. I do have these other 3 that I still want to try, but I'm getting a little sleepy too, which probably didn't do this one any favors. But like, whereas History of Wild Places definitely drew me in, this one did not draw me in at all. So good. Getting another one off of my shelf. I'll come back another day, maybe tomorrow night, maybe another time, I'm not sure when, and read another chapter and let you know what I thought about it. Hello, I'm back. It's a couple days later and I have 3 more books to talk about. and I want to get this video finished. So I'm hoping while I do sprints tonight, it's Sunday and I'm doing sprints with Amy, last of our Ketchupathon sprints, but I'm hoping to be able to finish my try a chapter tag tonight. So the next book I'm going to do is John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed. This one's different because it's a nonfiction collection of essays just about our world, I believe. So I'm just going to try to read the first, maybe the introduction and the first essay. Yeah, the first essay only takes me to page 12 if I read the intro and the first essay. So I feel like the intro will give me a good sense of the book, and then the first essay, like what we're actually doing. There are a total of a ton. I don't even know. Like this is the table of contents, all of these and all of these. So each of them is really pretty short, just a couple pages, which is great if I like the vibe that I'm getting from it. So I'm going to go ahead and read the intro and the first essay and we'll see. So the first line though of the first essay, let's get the actual writing. It is May of 2020 and I do not have a brain well suited to this. I don't think any of us did in May of 2020. So I feel like that's going to talk about the pandemic, possibly. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read the introduction and the first essay and let you know what I think. All right, so I just finished the first essay in here and I loved it. I really like John Green's writing. I like the premise of what he's going to do here, and I feel like I'm just sitting down with a friend, a really smart friend. The intro was interesting. It was a little bit scatterbrained, but he addresses that. He says kind of like a maze of how he's getting around to like getting to his point. The idea of this book, the Anthropocene is our geological era that we're in. Anthropocene is a proposed term for the current geological age in which humans have profoundly reshaped the planet and its biodiversity. And reviews, that concept of a 5-star review is a relatively new thing. So he talked about those two things in the introduction, but at the end of the introduction, let me just read this paragraph to you. I love it. He says, "It has taken me all my life up to now to fall in love with the world." Hold on. I just realized my ambient room from my sprints was still going. I wanted to turn that off so that you could hear me better. So this paragraph says, "It has taken me all my life up to now to fall in love with the world, but I've started to feel it the last couple of years. To fall in love with the world isn't to ignore or overlook suffering, both human and otherwise. For me, anyway, to fall in love with the world is to look up at the night sky and feel your mind swim before the beauty and the distance of the stars. It is to hold your children while they cry, to watch as the sycamore trees leaf out in June. When my breastbone starts to hurt and my throat tightens and tears well in my eyes, I want to look away from feeling. I want to deflect with irony or anything else that will keep me from feeling directly. We all know how loving ends, but I want to fall in love with the world anyway, to let it crack me open. I want to feel what there is to feel while I'm here." Oh, I'm like, oh my word. I love the writing of it. I love the concept of what he's going to do. So the first chapter was You'll Never Walk Alone, which is a song that was originally in a musical in Budapest that kind of flopped, but then eventually it was sold to Rodgers and Hammerstein and they retitled it Carousel. So there's this song in the play, and then he talked about how the song became the theme song kind of from Liverpool, the football soccer team in England, and they all kind of adopted this song, You'll Never Walk Alone. He talks about the meaning of the song, what it has meant to him personally, how it has developed. And then at the end, I give You'll Never Walk Alone 4.5 stars. So he's going to kind of talk about all different kinds of aspects of our world at this point in time and give them a rating. So we have Halley's Comet, Diet Dr. Pepper, Canada Geese, the internet, sunsets, teddy bears, CNN, the plague, Wintry Mix, the Notes app, sycamore trees, and on and on. Indianapolis, Googling strangers, and he's going to give them a rating. I am obsessed. I love this writing. I think it's such a fun idea. I'm definitely interested in continuing this book. So of the 3 that I've read so far, this is definitely the one that I'm the most interested in. Still very curious about history of wild places, and then DNFing and unhauling. I mean, the space between worlds. So successful, successful try a chapter. Next up, I'm going to do Again and Again. And I do have a few minutes, so let's go ahead and see how many pages is the first chapter. Let's see. I love a short chapter, and I think it will be pretty short. Let's see. Yep, 10 pages. So I may end up doing the first 2 in the next sprint, or I might just do 1. If I know how I feel at the end of the first chapter, we'll stop there. But this is going to be a poignant and endlessly surprising story about love lost, found, and redeemed. We're following Eugene Miles, who's a lonely old man clinging to his delusions and rehearsing his fantasies. Or is it a legitimate anomaly, a 1,000-year-old man who continues to search for the love that he lost long ago? So we don't know. Is this kind of a fantasy type of thing where this guy really is 1,000 years old? Or is he an old man with some delusions? Epic of empathy and emotion journeys from Moorish Spain to Victorian England and 1930s Los Angeles, pulling each storyline and life together into a tapestry with beautiful artistry that explores the intricacies of human connection. An ode to love in all its forms. Chino's story reads fast and hits hard and stays with the reader long after finishing the book. I have not heard anyone talk about this one though, so I really don't know. The first chapter is titled The Most Beautiful of All Possible Worlds, and the first sentence says, "Don't tell me life is short." So there we go. I'm going to read the first chapter actually in the next sprint, but I'm excited to see what I think about this one. I just got done reading the first chapter of Again and Again by Jonathan Evison, and I am not convinced. I wasn't totally drawn in, but I am slightly curious. So we're following a man named Eugene. He lives in this nursing facility called Desert Greens. He's 106 years old, but he has talked about previous lives that he has lived. This is his 11th century of life, and he wants to just be able to die. He wants it to be over, but he doesn't know if that's going to be what happens to him or not. I think this is probably the most literary of the ones that I've read so far. I don't know how to describe that, but the story itself didn't draw me in. The writing was good. I am curious enough to keep going. I'm not sure if it's going to end up being a DNF or not, but I'm not willing to just let it go off my shelves right now because I'm curious. It's going to be different. In the first chapter, it also introduced a couple of his neighbors in Desert Greens. I don't know if it's going to be more about his relationship with them. He keeps himself pretty isolated. He loves to sit around doing puzzles. And we also learned about his wife, Glenda, but it implied that she also is somebody who had been reborn and he knew her in a previous life and had been looking for her. So I don't know if we're going to get a little bit more of that story. Yeah, I'm curious enough to want to keep going, but in regards to the list so far, I would put it behind A History of Wild Places. So this is the stack so far. Most interested to least interested. One more to go. So last and maybe least, I don't know, we have The Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan. Again, I know zero about this book, so let's learn together. So this is going to be a historical fiction, captivating, sweeping novel about a Malayan mother who becomes an unlikely spy for the invading Japanese forces during World War II, and the shocking consequences that rain upon her community and family. Okay, now that sounds good. A different aspect of World War II than what I've read before. So we've got Malaysia? It says Malaya, 1945. Cecily Alcantara, her family is in terrible danger. Her 15-year-old son, Abel, has disappeared, and her younger daughter, Jasmine, hides in the basement to avoid being pressed into service at the comfort stations. Okay, so I've read White Chrysanthemum, which was about Korean girls being kidnapped and placed into comfort stations by the Japanese army. So I know what that's about. Yikes. Her older daughter, Jujube, I don't know, who serves tea to drunk Japanese soldiers, becomes angrier by the day. Cecily knows two things: that this is all her fault and that her family must never learn the truth. What? Okay, so it's a dazzling saga about the horrors of war, the fraught relationship between the colonized and their oppressors, and the ambiguity of right and wrong when survival is at stake. It starts right out, dear readers, with a letter from the author. So I will read that first. Then we have a historical timeline and a map. Interesting. And then chapter 1, Cecily, which is our main character. Okay, it's only 9 pages. So I'm going to read the author's letter and maybe skip the timeline for now and then read chapter 1. I do think this is possibly YA. There's like double spacing. The text is a little bit larger. So although this feels like a long book, it's only 330 pages and it's double spaced. So I feel like it might be a kind of quick read. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So I finished the first chapter of The Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan, and I think this is going to be really good. We follow Cecily in the first chapter, who's the mom of 3 kids. And it's in 1945, the 3rd year of Japanese occupation of Malaysia. First sentence, which I forgot to read before I started, but the first sentence says, teenage boys had begun to disappear. What? That's a fantastic first sentence. But also it's definitely what happens in this first chapter. So during Japanese occupation in her town, Cecily's town, teenage boys just began to disappear. It starts with the middle child of this family of 5 boys who were bullies. And then it was this kid who worked cleaning up in the cemetery, but people thought he was stealing the flowers and reselling them. So like at first it seemed like bad boys were being taken, but then more and more boys started going missing, including Cecily's son. I forget his name, but including Cecily's son. And it hints at Cecily feeling guilt, feeling like it's because she was bad that her son was taken. We don't know exactly from the chapter why she is feeling the guilt, but we know from the summary that she was a spy for Japanese army during the time the British were colonized, during the time that that Malaysia was a British colony. So I have a feeling that's going to play a part. And then the second chapter I did see is going to jump back 10 years earlier to when it was a British colony. So I have a feeling we're going to learn about how she became a spy, what she had to do as a spy, and then how that impacted her life and decisions moving down the road. I read the introduction letter from the author, who was born and raised in Malaysia. So it's an own voices story, which I love. And it was interesting, like, she said her grandparents, that generation, never talks about that time period of Japanese occupation from 1941 to 1945. She said our grandparents were very chatty about everything else, but anything during that time, they kind of immediately closed up. And she had to like pick and learn little bits and pieces along the way about that time period and what that was like for her grandparents. I thought that was super interesting. I'm glad that was at the beginning. Very interesting. I don't know what we're going to need the map for, but I'm here for it. I love a map. We did learn that the Japanese were able to invade and take over the British so easily because they came in on bicycles over land through Thailand, and the British thought they were going to come from the sea, so they were all focused out to sea, and they came from this direction, so they just like were brutally, I mean, they said that there was more killings during that initial couple of days than there had been during the whole British colonization. So very brutal time period for Malaysia. I'm very interested in this one as well. Am I more interested in this one? I think I am still more interested in this, but this one, Storm We Made, will be my second. So here's how they all stack up. I'm only going to unhaul one from this stack, which that's good, because ultimately I want to get book of the month that I'm interested in reading. But this one, the Anthropocene Reviewed, is my top choice. And then The Storm We Made. And then, this is a really awkward way to hold these books. And then A History of Wild Places. And then Again and Again. And then this one is going on my unhaul pile. So not bad. I'm really glad to have gotten an idea about these books and the writing style. Now I know what kind of mood I need to be in when I want to pick them up. I don't think I'm going to continue any right now because I have a few other books I still want to finish before the end of Ketchupathon. But now I know about these ones. So that is the end of my try a chapter tag. Thanks for coming along this crazy journey as I switched things up at the beginning and totally changed gears, but I'm really pleased with how it all turned out. I would love to know if you've read any of these. Did you like them? Did you not like them? Are you more interested in them now? I would love to hear that, or anything else you want to chat about. I love talking with you down in the comments. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I look forward to talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.